What's going on, everybody? I'm Lawrence Owen. This is Colts Law, and today I have with me Motor City Sports Talk to represent the Detroit Lions. Hey, man, why don't you go ahead and give everybody a little bit of lowdown about yourself, where they can find you, and the stuff that you talk about.
Oh yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Motor City Sports Talk. Also, if you look at my YouTube description, it's each link of the social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all same name. I talk everything Detroit, from Lions, Pistons, some Wings, some Tigers, some news around Detroit, Michigan football, Michigan basketball. So that's what I talk about. I mainly started off Lions, and then I kind of branched off to everything else. So yeah, I've been talking Lions football for I've been a fan since I came out the womb. So yeah.
What's going on? All right. Yeah, I've been a fan since '83, so I can't say out of the womb because the Colts were in Baltimore when I was born. So, but yeah, if you guys have anyone watching from this point on, if you want to find him, feel free. Check the description on the YouTube. Anyhow, the description to this video at the bottom, there is a link to his YouTube, his Facebook, and his Twitter. All right, so. Yeah, Comets, you are first as normal. You're right on it, Comets. So we are live on Sportscaster, and those of you who don't know, this is also my Sportscaster podcast that is brought out to all the major publications. It is featured on Spotify, so don't forget to check it out there as well. So let's get to know a little bit about the Detroit Lions. Going into this season, I actually had high expectations out of Detroit. I thought they were going to end up being second in their division, right behind Green Bay. I loved everything that Detroit for once did. At least it seemed like to me to like try to put some help around Mathew Stafford, right? Get him a little bit. I love the Swift grab. I love the additions of a couple offensive linemen. You just got him some protection, got him some weapons, and yet right now they're not second in their division. So really, what was your expectations walking into this season, and what's happened to those expectations?
Well, as a Lion fan, I have no expectations at this point, but always optimistic. I like what they did with a couple picks in the draft. Swift was probably my favorite pick. Well, Jonah Jackson is my favorite pick. Then probably Swift. Pretty much. I mean, Chicago game I think turned it around. Turned it the other way. A lot of injuries to the defensive backfield, and you think about the teams that are usually good: New England, Green Bay. So you pretty much knew that those teams would probably get off to a hot start because, with the kind of irregular offseason, you knew the good teams or the good organizations were pretty much going to still be at the top. So I kind of figured it'd take some time, but right now it's just really the lack of speed on offense for Stafford. I mean, 12th year, no Galladay early on. That also hurt as well. Mm-hmm. I think he pretty much proved his worth. Missing I think the first 3 or 4 games he missed. When he came back, they got a win. And the biggest thing offensively is just that he wasn't there. That's the biggest thing. He wasn't there, and now you kind of see a trickle effect of now you make Marvin number 1, Cephas number 2, Danny Amendola in the slot. It kind of not having your number 1 receiver there, he kind of proved how much he was worth to that organization. And then you look at it, the offensive coordinator just doesn't really like tight ends. You spend money on Jesse James, you bring Hockenson in. He's made a tremendous jump. It's just he doesn't get the targets. And then the running back thing, you lose Ty Johnson. You put him on a practice squad, he leave. And then Huntley, he get cut. I mean, Philadelphia bring him up. And then Peterson becomes your number 1 back. So offensively, it just doesn't seem like they didn't have Galladay, and when they got him, it kind of picked back up. And then defensively, it's not the personnel, it's the scheme. And now the last few weeks, they've been pressuring, they've been playing zone, they've been, disguising their defense. And really, it went from the Jags. You like, oh, it's the Jags, they injured. They wasn't the same Jags when they played you guys for week 1. They was fully healthy. at this point, they had, I think, 17 drafted players this year on their roster when we played them. And then it's just pretty much the defensive scheme. I think Matt Patricia give it to Corey Ulan, who came from Philadelphia, and he kind of been able to have his imprint. So they playing zone, man, they zone blitzing, they dropping defensive linemen into cover. So now I think Ulan spicing up the defense. It's like people are, the defensive players got a little pep in their step. So, we might have Coleman back this week in the slot. So, I mean, the rookies it's hard to have expectation with no offseason. No Kuda, he kind of ain't been that, but it takes a couple years to become, a Revis or, a guy like that. So it's pretty much been the last 2 weeks, great defensively. They've been playing well. I think this week is a litmus test. I think you guys are a step up from the Jags and from the Atlanta Falcons, even though they won last night. So I just think creativity defensively is now got the guys going. And then special teams, they got an offensive coordinator from a special team coordinator from the Bengals, and that's been the best side of the ball all year, special teams for us. So they've been doing well.
Oh, great. Yeah, having Kenny Golladay back is a huge bonus, but does that help TJ Hawkinson? Hawkinson is somebody who I thought was going to come out and just light the NFL on fire. And there's been some question marks about him. What are your thoughts? Do you think that Hawkinson could make a big impact in this game against the Indianapolis Colts?
Well, first, the issue is not with him. He made the jump. Physically, it's just that Darrell Bevell just historically doesn't give the tight ends the opportunities because they have James and then they have Hawkinson, and James was pretty good in Pittsburgh. So he's made that jump. It's just that, if you look at what Pittsburgh did last week against Tennessee, Juju had 15 targets, and the guy from Toledo, Deontay Johnson, had 15 targets. In Detroit, it's 6 targets to Galladay. It's maybe 5 or 6 to Hawkinson, 5 to Amendola, 5 or 6 to Marvin Jones, and maybe a few out the backfield. But DeAndre Swift is his team's second leader receiver, and he ain't been full time. So it's just basically, it's an equal opportunity offense. So you don't really abuse your primary weapons. If he was in Green Bay, he would probably be considered the best tight end this year. If he was in Tampa, it's just Darrell Bevell doesn't really abuse his tight ends and or abuse his weapons, but he's phenomenal. But the difference is it depends on the scheme you guys play. If Darius Leonard's going to be checking him, I think he's one of the probably best linebackers in football, and he's coming back from a groin injury, so the opportunity is there. Hawkinson legitimately should have, you don't think I'm joking, he should have 60 receptions this year already. It's just that we don't utilize him, how we should. But
yeah, I agree. I love what Hawkinson brings to the table, but the fact that Matt Stafford really kind of evens the playing field, like what you're saying, 5 here, 5 here, 5 here. Everybody gets the ball. That makes it very difficult for a defense to hone in on one specific player. And right now, the Colts have the number 1 pass defense in the NFL. So that's going to bring even more pressure on Matt Eberflus's defense here in Indianapolis, because they can't focus on taking away one guy or 2 guys from your passing game, because Stafford is so good at just dishing the ball out to everybody. And Golladay is that big-time threat. So if you were playing against Detroit and you had 2 players that you absolutely had to shut down in a game, who would it be?
Galladay, and to be funny, Swift. Not Swift, but Hawkinson. It's just that he has the potential to go off. You see what he did versus Arizona last year. That potential is always there, but Galladay and Swift kind of provide some vertical. Everybody else is pretty slow. Marvin Jones is kind of slowed down through the years, and Amendola has never really been a burner. So, but those are 2 guys. You can't stop Stafford because he's the 11th man. So, he's the primary 2 weapons. But Stafford is sneaky with his athleticism too. Ever since he cut the baby weight down, he can run for some first downs, and he can make some things happen outside the pocket as well too.
So there's a lot of talk with trade deadline coming up, and I cannot tell you. Like I said, I work for Sportscaster. there's about 6 of us that cover 6 different teams, and we see articles about different people possibly getting traded all the time. And every once in a while, and it seems like this happens every year for the last couple of years, Mathew Stafford's name comes up, right? And we're like, I'm looking at it going, well, Detroit would be absolutely stupid to get rid of, Matt Stafford. But do you think there's any even slight inkling that could be a possibility?
Nah, not right now. I think Quinn and Patricia playing for their job. So that's the case. But, maybe next season he sold his house here. And also he has no more guaranteed money past this year. So it's either you're going to pay him or, maybe he retires. I mean, I don't really see him playing nowhere else.
Yeah, to me, it seems like Matt Stafford is one of those quarterbacks. I mean, he doesn't get the love that he should, I think, from a lot of NFL fans and media alike, because he's just one of those guys that can just put a team on his shoulders and will them in the game. So, I've always liked Stafford ever since his rookie season in that game against Chicago when he threw that winning touchdown with a dislocated shoulder. When he came back,
the Browns,
my bad. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. That was an amazing. I just went and was like, "Are you kidding me?" When that happened,
we kind of put you in the mind of even these guys made it to the Super Bowl, but Julio and Larry Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. I mean, kind of like Randy Moss and the Raiders, and if you put them with Tom Brady, and now, I mean, we know what Randy Moss was in Minnesota, but now you put him with Tom Brady. So if you just think, Matthew Stafford in New England organization, or you put him in this, I mean, if you guys had Matthew Stafford, you probably wouldn't have lost the game this year, to be honest.
I can't disagree with you. There's a few things that the Colts have done well in building a team over the last 3 years. The only thing that they haven't had is a quarterback ever since Andrew Luck has retired. It's a shame that he retired just as the Colts came into their own and became a more complete team. Desmond Trufant, in or out, do you think?
I would play. It came up today. I'll tell you right now, because one of my friends, he sent it to me. So I'm gonna tell you right now. I think he might have been out if my memory serves me correctly. But
last I knew he was questionable, so I didn't know.
So it's on the Detroit line. Let me see. So it says that he's questionable, but he was limited on Friday. I would go ahead and just side with I would side that he's probably going to be out.
All right. So you're expecting Okudah to hold down the fort on the outside?
It depends if Justin Coleman come back. That can slide him to nickel, and if Okudah can kind of rotate with Darryl Roberts. So if Coleman plays, you probably see Coleman in the slot and Okudah kind of rotating, probably with Mike Ford or Darryl Roberts as well too. So it's kind of rotation.
Excuse me. You got some people. I mean, let's face it. A lot of fans and media kind of call Detroit, as of right now, the Detroit Patriots, because so many people are brought in from the Patriots organization. I want to kind of focus a little bit on Jamie Collins and Trey Flowers. How are they working out for Detroit right now?
Trey Flowers had a really good game versus Arizona, and they played a little bit more zone in that game. He was tremendous, but outside of that game, it just really ain't been clicking. But Flowers had his best game last Sunday, and he broke up a pass. And it's just those two guys are, I think the more they creative with the defense, the better those guys are going to be. And Romeo Core has been fantastic as well too. Got to put him in there.
All right. Any questions about Indianapolis that you have that from past to present?
I got a lot of questions.
Go ahead.
I just want to understand why it doesn't work with Phillip Rivers and T.Y. Hilton. I can understand that his arm might not be there, but T.Y. can catch quick slants and screens. It's just they really haven't really connected. I think Paris Campbell was more of his guy before he went out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, I get this question every week from my guests, and it's a very simple explanation. T.Y. Hilton runs routes a lot differently than most other wide receivers. When he takes off on a route, depending upon how the cornerback is playing him, whether he's playing him up close and physical or off back, he will run a route the way he wants to in order to get to the open spot on the field. And that takes a quarterback, especially a new quarterback, new to the system and new to TY, a while to get used to being in sync with him, to know when and where his breaks are going to happen. Whereas a lot of quarterbacks are like, wide receivers have to make this be at this point at this time on this route every time. And TY's not like that. TY's more of he kind of free wills it when he's out there a little bit. He still runs his route, but sometimes it's a little bit off than what he normally does. So I think that kind of throws Phillip Rivers off a little bit. I think it'll come in. It's slowly coming into effect. The last game that they played 2 weeks ago, Rivers hit TY a couple times, and it looked pretty good. TY did have a drop, but the longer they play together, I think the more connections you'll see between the two guys. Whereas, like Marcus Johnson and Zach Pascal and guys like that, they're more of you're running a route as if cones are set up right on the field, whereas TY doesn't do that.
Yeah, it's different from Keenan Allen because he's more, when he came from a timing pattern route runner in and out his breaks. He might be the best route runner in football. I mean, maybe him and Hopkins. But also, are there any – I know Phillip Rivers is 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, around 1,600 yards. Is it any kind of talk about Jacoby Brissett getting in there in Indianapolis?
No.
None?
None. You figure of those 6 interceptions, 2 of those were tipped balls where they just went right through the hands or like hit like dead numbers and it went up in the air. The only issue really, the interceptions isn't that big of a deal. He's cut them down over the last 3 games. The biggest deal is his red zone numbers. Those are the big problem where he does not seem to be able to punch that ball in the red zone very well. And it's really been hampering the Indianapolis Colts offense in that aspect. This is why the Colts don't seem to score 27, 30 points a game. Even though they do have the yardage overall, they just can't seem to get that ball in there, and they're settling for field goals way too much.
How's DeForest Buckner doing over there?
Who?
DeForest Buckner.
Oh, yeah, DeForest Buckner. Dude, right now he might be he legitimately, I think it's between him and Xavier Rhodes, and I'm sure you know Xavier Rhodes quite well too because division. These guys came into Indianapolis and are playing at an all-pro level right now. DeForest Buckner does not have the sacks that you would expect from the number 1 pick and that big contract, but he's a defensive tackle. He's a 3-tech, and his job mainly is to get pressure up the middle and create problems. Make a quarterback adjust on his throw. Make a running back adjust his running route, because when he gets the ball and you see Buckner right there, you got to move. And he's doing that. He's getting that the penetration, that offensive line penetration. Right now, I honestly believe that he is playing the second best defensive tackle in football right now, along with Xavier Rhodes. Probably Xavier Rhodes, I think, is playing at an all-pro level as well, coming in from the Minnesota Vikings. He is an absolute stud so far, locking down receivers left and right. I think he's giving up an average of something like a 36 quarterback rating so far this year.
And they gave up on him, and I'm guessing he was injured last year. It had to be some type of injury. They can use him in Minnesota.
Yeah, in the last 2 years in Minnesota, he played well the first 3 or 4 weeks of the last couple years in Minnesota, and then he would get hurt. And because they had no depth, they played him hurt, so he could not get healthy. When I say hurt, I mean like hamstring injury, calf injury, ankle injury, stuff that has to do with your speed and your breaking ability and stuff like that, and things that are very important to a corner to be able to cover. And so since he wasn't able to get healthy on that, and they kept him on the field playing, his productivity went way down. And for Indianapolis, he's been healthy 100% and has just been an absolute stud. So,
are you guys ready to give up on Malik Hooker? He's pretty good when he's healthy, though.
That's an interesting question. There's a lot of fans who are ready to just say, Let him go. We have Julian Blackman, the rookie that we got this year. Julian Blackman has been a stud as well. And not just being able to make free safety plays on a ball deep down the field, but he plays with a physicality you don't normally see from a free safety, right? Much to the style of a Troy Polamalu. I'm not saying they're equal in talent. I'm just saying that kind of play style, So Malik Hooker, there is a good possibility. I mean, he was not offered a 5th-year option. So there's a good possibility Malik Hooker might be a free agent at the end of this year.
He's good. He's just never healthy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the problem.
And he didn't really have that year that Bob Sanders had, where wasn't he MVP one year for the Colts?
He was the defensive player. Yeah, defensive player of the year. Yes, Bob Sanders was.
Yeah, I think Malik Hooker probably gonna have that one good season, and then that injuries just might take a toll. But he's really good. The way he turns his hips and breaks on the ball. I mean, I didn't think Indianapolis would be better than Houston this year. I thought y'all would kind of be right there with Houston, but DeAndre Hopkins' loss is just like, they got the highest payroll in football as well.
I also think that it had a lot to do with Houston. I believe Houston has a lot to do with they just wanted O'Brien out. And I don't think they were playing to their best ability the first 4 weeks until O'Brien left. And then now that O'Brien's gone, there's a good possibility that you might actually see this Houston Texans team turn around and become a very good team. I got a lot of people here in chat right now. High Octane Analysis says, no, sir, we need to keep Malik Hooker. A lot of other player, Devin Atherton is talking about he believes that Malik Hooker is history for the Colts. They also want to bring up something, Marlon Mack. A lot of people forget, Marlon Mack's on this team, but he got hurt week 1. And there's questions on whether he'll be on this team as well, just because we have Jonathan Taylor now. But some people believe that if Marlon Mack and Malik Hooker both are willing to take a pay cut, a lower contract, like a prove-it deal, then there's a good possibility they may return.
I can see Marlon Mack returning. It's not really a market for running backs right now. I think Ezekiel Elliott kind of hurt, guys getting paid. Saquon, I know Alvin Kamara got his money, but Ezekiel Elliott really hurt it. Le'Veon as well. So I like Marlon Mack. The identity that your coaches is what's his name? Is it head coach?
Frank Reich.
Frank Reich. I want to get it right. He changed the mentality. I think he was what I thought Chuck Pagano would have did in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. But Pagano kept drafting receivers, and was it Chris Ballard? They kept drafting receivers and just and
it was Ryan Grigson, and Chuck Pagano. Chris Ballard is with Frank Reich.
Yeah, okay. The other GM, he just, and now you see with this, they got defense. They stopped the run, and now they playing. You guys are, at least with Marlon Mack last year, you guys had an outdoor mentality. So you can take that offense and, you can run the ball with Marlon Mack. I think Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor will complement each other. That was my number one back coming to the draft, Jonathan Taylor. A lot of people thought he had too much tread in Wisconsin, but he's a terrific back.
Well, one thing that was really worrying about Jonathan Taylor coming in to the NFL was the fact that he had 18 fumbles in 3 years, and he has yet to fumble the football for the Colts. So having a running backs coach, Tom Rathman, former fullback for the San Francisco 49ers, as your head coach, has paid massive dividends on him when it came to ball control. Jonathan Taylor still has a little bit of catching up to do NFL speed-wise. He doesn't he has a problem early on in the season. He had a problem with waiting for, because the Colts use a lot of zone blocking schemes, and sometimes that takes a moment for it to develop in front of him, and he had to learn patience for those holes to develop behind the line. But Jonathan Taylor's been doing a lot better this year. Marlon Mack's just a beast and has been teaching Jonathan Taylor, even though he's not out there on the field with him. He just got done having an interview earlier this week, actually, and said that Marlon Mack has been in the film rooms with him, actually breaking down plays and telling him what would be the best thing he thinks would be best for Jonathan Taylor to do. in specific situations with his talents. So that's always nice to have when you got players that can do that with one another.
I like your backup running back too, Nyheim Hines as well. I like him coming out of college. He's fast.
Oh yeah. Nyheim Hines is a great change of pace back. Great change of pace back and a good receiver out of the backfield. Excellent receiver out of the backfield. So what is your biggest surprise from Detroit this year?
That Patricia changed it up. That's my biggest surprise. He was a guy that played man and prevent defense, and now he's let Udelin really open it up. So he got threatened by the owner he would have to get, if they lost to the Jags, he was going to be fired. She showed up for practice, and she pushed the right button, and now they getting creative. They blitzing, they studying, they getting very, very creative in Detroit. That's my biggest surprise. It's the creativity of the defense the last 2 weeks.
Oh, that's interesting. Because honestly, I don't really think of Detroit as being a creative defensive team, even though you have head coach wise, it doesn't really spark with me. When I think of Detroit Lions, I generally think of the offense and secondary. I usually think, hey, they usually have a secondary there. Now, obviously, you've switched up a few things when it comes to your secondary players over the last couple years, but I still think that you still have that talent there, especially with the addition of Okudah. And, so, all right. Anything you want to bring up about this game?
Oh, yeah, I want you guys to pay attention to our number one corner, Amani Oruwariye. He's perhaps the best player this year from week one to here. He's truly our lockdown corner. They thought Okudah was going to come in and him and Trufant were bookended, but Amani is truly, he's ranked, at one point he was ranked 18th out of how many cornerbacks in football, and he's really, really good. Kind of reminds you of Okudah, both Big Ten guys. He only played 1 year, started 1 year at Penn State. Amazing ball skills. He's 6'2", long arms. He's probably a really, really good, cornerback. And the other guy that's in the defense, our safety, Tracy Walker. Now they blitzing him. He getting creative. Those are probably two of our best defensive players this year, just on consistency and those guys. And offensively, it's just really. You just marvel at what Galladay and Mathew Stafford can do. He had an amazing catch last week on the 5-yard line to end the game, and Stafford just threw an absolute bullet. And, he didn't drop it. He just, you lose Megatron, you bring Marvin in, and then you draft Galladay in the 3rd round, and, he develops, and you like, he's a good player. He's a really good player. So, and also our offensive line, you got to give him credit. Jonah Jackson came in from Ohio State. Done a wonderful job. And I got to say about Quentin Nelson for y'all, he is a guy that I'm taking on my team. He is nasty. Was he from Notre Dame, right?
Yes.
Nasty. And then you got to say Anthony Costanzo. I didn't think he was a left tackle in this league. He's been there for sheesh. Mm-hmm. Got to be at least 10 years now at Boston College. He's been doing really well there as well, too, over the last few years.
So the additions that the Lions did for the offensive line, they have worked out this year?
Oh, yeah. One of the biggest moves were they moved High-Tie out of the Eagles. He was injured with a foot injury a few weeks as well. He came in and moved to guard, and they finally started Terrell Crosby. And Frank Ragnow he didn't give up a sack in college. So he came in. He's done well. And Jonah Jackson, he's played left guard, right guard. And Taylor Decker got paid. And he's on the injury report as well this week. He may miss Sunday. So they've done well. I think somebody asked in the comments section, the Colts offensive line is probably better than ours, but ours is kind of coming together. They're kind of getting that camaraderie now. So,
yeah. Devin Atherton, I hope this is not an interception filled game for both teams. I'm just going to say that right now. I'd like to see a nice, clean game for once. Just straight honestly. See. Rivers have had 2 games this year without an interception, and that's it. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. And to be honest, I don't think a Detroit fan wants to see Matt Stafford out there throwing picks either. So
I'm not sure how many picks he got this year. He had one in Chicago that kind of turned the game around, and they got field position on us. And that's just a game. If you look, we'd be 4-2 instead of 3-3 right now. That was a game that, sheesh, we just gave it to him.
What's your strength on defense? Run defense or pass defense?
Now, to be honest, the last 2 weeks they've been really both, the front end and back end. But just this year is, with creativity, it's kind of both. Without, it's really Aurarie. He's the only strength that's consistently that been playing. It's not that they just changing it up. It's just, everybody's playing well, to be honest.
I was wondering because the Colts' identity, they want to run the football and control the clock. And if they're able to do that, they usually lean on that with their defense. Does Detroit have what it takes to handle the Colts' offensive line and the power and speed run of Jonathan Taylor in order to get them on 3rd and long situations?
The last 2 weeks, yeah, versus the Falcons and after the bye and the Jags and the Falcons. So, I mean, if you ask me outside of the Arizona game in those 2 games, no. But if they kind of are creative and, committing guys to the box, then yeah, you see Danny Shelton's playing better. The linebackers are flowing better. So it's really a test for us. This is like really that game that say Jags, Falcons, and now the Colts. So they have the potential, but the line is really good for you guys. Like,
okay,
really good.
Defensive scheme wise, when it comes to pass defense, does your cornerbacks follow receivers, or do they stick to one side of the field?
Jeff Okudah was following. I don't know what the point was trying to prove because he was getting beat bad because we was missing our 2 nickelbacks. We was at one point we were missing Darryl Robertson. Coleman got injured in week 1, and he was following DeAndre Hopkins everywhere. He made a pick, but he was getting abused. But Hopkins,
it's Hopkins. So
yeah, Hopkins is one of the best. But the last 2 weeks they've been playing cover 2. I mean, they've been playing covers. But if anybody do follow, if Okudah play, he was following, but it's pretty much they stay on each side.
Okay, all right. That's kind of similar to what the Colts do. They generally just because they play a lot of cover 2, cover 3 zone defense, so they don't really stick to one player or another. So yeah, I understand that. Now, I mean, obviously there's matchups that you want to take advantage of. I would say that if the Colts see, it's kind of interesting because like with Indianapolis, Xavier Rhodes is more of a follow you, use his speed and athleticism and long arms in order to break in and make a play on the ball, whereas the other corner Colts have, Rock Ya-Sin, on the outside. He's more of a physical man corner who can get up into you, bust you off your route, make you very uncomfortable as the ball's in the air type of corner. So I don't know too much on whether or not you'll see a lot of man coverage with Indianapolis tonight, but this Sunday at 1:00. But expect that from both of those guys. That's their style of play.
Galladay knows Xavier Rhodes really well, so that'll be. I think he'll follow Galladay. I think at some point in critical moments he'll follow him.
Yeah, one person I think that you ought to pay attention to that is not a very well-known player in the NFL that the Colts have is Kenny Moore II. He is our nickel corner. He's the highest paid nickel corner in the NFL, and there's a reason why he is that. He's a very hard worker. He's very quick, makes very good decisions, and has got really, really good closing speed. So I think that if he's put on Amendola, I honestly don't think Amendola is going to get a lot of catches in this game.
He hasn't got none. He hasn't got any all year. He dropped the critical first down versus last week to Atlanta, and I don't think Stafford went back to him.
But another thing that you got to watch out for Kenny Moore is he is known to be sent on blitzes. like out of nowhere, and he hides it very well. You won't know he's blitzing until that ball is snapped. And I know that Stafford is a big guy and can shrug tackles off, but when you're hit by someone and not expecting it, not seeing it coming, doesn't matter how big you are, you will go down, you know? So just something to watch out for. Kenny Moore is somebody who is a big playmaker that the Colts know quite well. You was talking about your cornerback being a guy we need to watch out for. Is there another player that you think on this team that probably does not get enough recognition that maybe the Colts might be wanting to watch out for in this game?
Tracy Walker is one of those guys. Defensively, Romeo Cora is one of those guys. Our defensive end. His brother got drafted this year, but he I guess he wasn't ready. He broke his leg in Notre Dame. But one of the other guys that, you know, he don't get a lot of burn, but he always has that one play is Marvin Hall, our backup receiver. He's probably our fastest receiver, other than maybe him and Agnew. He always in that nickel, and they run a play where maybe they play action, or you think that they're going to hand the ball off, or, you know, maybe they look into Galladay, and he gets behind that defense every time, and him and Stafford have really good rapport on deep balls, but they just don't play him. I mean, he plays in critical moments, but he's a guy that, you know, if Kenny Moore blitzes or he misses him off the line, he can be gone like that. And him and Stafford, it's just like he handing the ball off to him.
All right. Well, we're about 40 minutes into this, and I was thinking possibly, unless you got some other points you want to bring up, I was thinking about maybe giving our thoughts on the game, how we think it might end up going, and who we got winning this game. So I'll go with you first.
Oh, it's all right if y'all call me a Dominican Sue. I get it all the time. So I worked in at Ford Field for many years when I was in college. So he had a question. I want to ask Devin a question. He said, "Do the Lions move their number one corner around?" And I only seen them move Okuda around. So if the nickel back is not playing well, they injured, they will move Okuda around. But Armani stays on the right or the left side. So Darius Slay used to follow around, you know, and I miss him. He was one of my favorite players. But obviously about the game, I think it's going to come down to turnovers and takeaways. I think this is a game for us personally that if we lose this game, and there are a nice percentage of fans that want to lose this game because they don't want Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia to go on that Patriot fire sale because the Patriots are trading everybody, and they don't want them to give up those early round picks where, you know, next year we didn't take Tua, we didn't take Herbert this year, we took Okuda, and it takes some time. So I personally get tired of seeing the Lions lose, so I want them to win every game. But I think this is a game that that's winnable for us because we are home. There will be some family and friends there for the first time, and you know, I just think Phillip Rivers without Paris Campbell, I just think we got a chance to get him. Jonathan Taylor, I think he might have a big game if we don't come to play gap discipline and tackle. But really what we want to do is, you know, pretty much put you guys in third and long, not let Taylor be a factor. And, you know, personally for you guys, depending if Coleman play or not, I mean, this might be the game where T.Y. kind of breaks out because, you know, Okuda has been really hit or miss. You know, the speed of the game is just a little bit too fast for him. So, you know, it may happen, but defensively for us, it's just really putting you guys in a situation in third and long and stopping Taylor. And offensively, I really think Stafford is going to pick on that Xavier Rhodes matchup. I mean, he did it last year. We had a shootout with them at Ford Field with Kirk Cousins, and I think he's going to look for Kenny Galladay a little bit more. But really, I think it's a situation where it's your second corner and Marvin Jones. You know, that's the kind of the matchup that I'm looking at. And he hasn't really created that separation this year. So Stafford tried to force him the ball. And that pick he threw in Chicago, that was to Marvin Jones too. So it'll be a good game. You want to believe in Patricia and Hewlin and a scheme. And, you know, hopefully Darrell Bevell can kind of find that rhythm he was in last year before Stafford got injured. But I think we win by a field goal. I think I said 27-24 on a late field goal. And I know FanDuel has Indianapolis 2.5-point favor. So I think we cover that with a field goal at the end of the game.
Okay. All right. I will agree that I think the Indianapolis Colts is going to want to come in and try to establish themselves and run the football. And it will be critical for Indianapolis not to find themselves in 3rd and long on multiple occasions in this game. I am comfortable with Rivers having to throw the ball 30, 35 times a game, but not more than that. I don't want to see him like he had to against Cincinnati, falling behind 21-0 in the first quarter, basically, and then have to put the team on his back. That's not something you want to do against the Detroit Lions. I think this is a really high 20s game as well. I don't think that this is a game where either team is going to get a lot of 20-plus air yard passes. I think both these teams are going to be good about keeping the big plays down and keeping things in front of them. And it could come down to a turnover or two. I don't want to see it, but I think whichever team does not turn the ball over as much as the other ends up winning this football game. So I think both teams have the ability to score quickly when needed. So I don't think time of possession is going to be that big of a deal either. I mean, obviously last week we saw the Colts erase a 21-point deficit in short time. And then, of course, Detroit only needed less than a minute and a half to win a football game, right? So, no, I see. Brian says he thinks it'll be a close game. He's got it 24-17. I'm going to call it 25-23. It's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a dink and dunk type of game. I think turnovers, if it's not turnovers, it's going to be 20-plus explosive plays down the field. Or it's going to be Jonathan Taylor running well. It'd be nice to see Taylor and Swift kind of go against each other as being rookies.
That would be an interesting game to actually see two rookie running backs having a good game, you know.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson is on the injury report as well. So
really?
You might see a full dose of Swift. He has a abdomen.
I see that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. He practiced Friday, but yeah, we have Bo Scarborough also. He's supposed to be, playing at some point.
I just saw your tackle, Taylor Decker.
Yeah, he's shoulder injury.
Yeah, he didn't even practice Friday.
So what would happen is Crosby would go to left, Hightower would go to right tackle, and Joe Dowd will go to either right. Well, he would probably go to right guard. So,
all right.
So that's pretty much what's going to happen.
We have an issue as well on the line. Our center, Ryan Kelly, is questionable for the game. He did not practice today either. And if that happens, there's a good chance that either Jake Eldencramp or our rookie Danny Pinter ends up starting. And it's got to be better off than when our left tackle went down. I think our guards and centers are much better than what our backup tackles are at this point in this season. So, well, good luck to you. Not too much luck, but I hope you enjoy the game. And tell everybody again where they can find you.
Oh, you can find me on YouTube, Motor City Sports Talk, and it's on Motor City Sports Talk Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me there. And I also have another channel. I just talk mostly like sports, basketball, football, MMA, boxing. It's called Goodfellas Sports TV on YouTube. So that's kind of my bigger channel, but Motor City Sports Talk, you can find me there as well. All
right. And just to mention right off the bat, my guy had a question on here about Mo Alley Cox, who is one of our breakout tight ends. He is questionable. He may not play, Devin, so I'm just letting you know up front. If you are watching on Sportscaster like One Giants Podcast, Act Ventura, Mary Remember 85, and Boston Bell, good for you. But if I didn't name your name off, that means you do not have a profile. Please do yourself a favor and make a profile. That way you can like this stream and give me a follow so you're notified next time I go live. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go give Motor City Sports a sub. Check out his content. And don't forget to like this stream here and share it to your favorite social media, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen with Motor City Sports Talk. And we just got done talking about the Indianapolis Colts Detroit Lions, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. Have a good one.